Hi, I'm Andy Clarke, and this is my 10 of the best. That's a good one. I think that says quite a lot. I can't have it. I think it's great fun.
Roll up, it's 10 of the best.
People are going to wildly disagree with this. Haggler? Definitely my favourite. Definitely my favourite. If I had to pick a southpaw I wanted to watch, it would be him, I think. That's a good one. That's a good one. I might have to pick a recent one, Fury Wilder 3. Being there for that was extraordinary, and getting the fight we got and commentating on it was great. So that is a difficult question, but I would have to go with a recent one and say Fury Wilder 3. I mean, stadium fights are great. I've been lucky. I've been at plenty of those. But I think there's nothing quite like a packed-out arena, Madison Square Garden, for the history of it, but also because that particular night, AJ against Ruiz, we saw something absolutely mega and totally unexpected. It really brought that place alive. Chris Eubank Sr. Nobody will ever dissuade me on this. Some people might say that some of his fights weren't all that exciting, but I was obsessed with Eubank Sr. When he came along, I was kind of 10, and by the time he got in with Ben and all that started, I was 13, and I was rolling very steadily into what's turned out to be a lifelong obsession with boxing. And literally anything that Eubank did, I would watch or read about. Anything at all. There are a few candidates for this. It's a difficult question. It's a difficult question. I do really like Ken Buchanan just because of the way he did it. He never had a world title fight at home. You know, he made a second home for himself in America. I think he's underappreciated, and that's why I would always put him in that conversation. Josh Taylor, another Scottish fighter, I don't see how you can't put him up there as well. And those two are real strong candidates. But I might have to go for Lennox Lewis because he did it in the top division. Being a heavyweight doesn't necessarily make you better than other fighters. It definitely doesn't make you better than other fighters. But I think what he did was pretty amazing, and the journey had its ups and downs too. And you know, he persevered. And he's one of those fighters where the longer he's retired, I think he gets more appreciated. With some, when fighters retire, the luster seems to fade slightly and people like to criticise, but with him I think it's been the other way around. I think that says quite a lot. Globally. So, I am the man to ask about this because I've just spent 2 weeks, 267 fights ringside in Belgrade, so I'm not going to count any fighters who I know are in the process of turning over. So I'll go by what I saw at the World Championships, and I would say it's Andy Cruz, Cuban, 63.5 kilos in that competition, 64 kilos in the Olympics. He won his third straight world title, won gold in Tokyo. 2 or 3 years ago, I might have said Julio La Cruz, his Cuban teammate, but Andy Cruz. Couple of names for you though, if this is your bag. A Ukrainian fighter who won gold at 71 kilos. He won the World Youths earlier in the year as well, Yuri Zhakarev. Watch out for him. He's very good. And there was a Russian, Jambalat Bishamov, who got silver, but another recent World Youth gold medalist. He was at middleweight, I think, 75 kilos, and he was really good too. So lots of new faces, but it's Cruz. I think most people would say that. Now, this is an interesting one because it depends what you define by prospect, really. I've seen people choose 25-0 fighters who are on the brink of a world title as prospects. That, for me, is not a prospect. I would say a prospect needs to be under 10 fights, and they need not to have stepped up to a certain level yet. So I'd have pushed a few Uzbeks your way not that long ago, including someone like Akhmadaliev, but he's now a unified world champion, so you can't have him. I would go with, and there's some home bias here, but I'm going to pick out Dalton Smith. I'm a big Dalton Smith fan. I think he's done everything right so far. plenty of people will come up with loads of other suggestions for that, I'm sure. But he's just someone I've seen a lot. So many amateurs. I remember being really impressed with him from the beginning there. So I'm going to say him. It's, a little bit of home bias there, but I genuinely think he could do really well. I kind of love this one. I'm not massively into comparing fighters across eras because I think it's kind of impossible, but at the same time, it is just really fun. People will always say, or most people will always say Ali, and I completely understand why you would, because he was an extraordinary fighter, as well as all the other things that went along with his story. I do really like Fury. I know he's not, by the end of his career, going to have beaten the kind of list of fighters that Ali beat, but there were plenty of other names in there on Ali's CV who weren't stellar names, so it's not like he was fighting absolute beasts every single week. People are going to wildly disagree with this, but a peak Tyson. I'm going to pick a peak Tyson because, again, there's a bit of nostalgic bias about this because when he won his first world title in like late 1986, 1986 was the year really where I really got into boxing. And that period from late 1986 to mid-1988 when he beat Spinks and he was fighting regularly and he was smashing everyone, he was amazing. He was amazing. And people like to criticise Tyson now and look back on it and try and claim he wasn't that good, and I can't have it. I know that physically he might always be at a disadvantage against some of the bigger guys, but that Tyson I would put up against anybody, and it's not like the fighters he was fighting weren't good fighters because they were. So I'll go for a peak Tyson, but that's somewhat due to the age I am and my own boxing journey, I guess. I like Belfast. I love going to Belfast. I think it's great fun. Las Vegas is brilliant. New York. That week around AJ Ruiz was great because we were staying right by the Garden. Had some amazing nights in London, obviously, but I love going to Belfast because they're so into it there. There's so many really famous amateur clubs. Boxing's big. It has been for a long time. I think it always will be. It's played a really important part in the fabric of the city and the history of the troubles and things like that. And it's just a great place to go for fights. People like to talk about knowledgeable crowds, don't they, when they go to certain cities and kind of flatter the locals that they're a knowledgeable crowd. But in Belfast, that's definitely true. So I'll pick Belfast. I mean, the best amateur I've ever seen live, I think, is probably Rebasi Ramirez. Although there's, with Cruz now and Julio La Cruz and fighters like that, there have been quite a few. The best pro I've ever seen live, I'd probably have to say Lomachenko because he is absolutely amazing. I'm an Errol Spence fan, and seeing him in Sheffield against Kell Brook, that was a pretty special experience. I've been lucky with some of the fighters I've seen. I never got to see Floyd Mayweather live. I've never seen Pacquiao live, but I would go with Lomachenko. You look at what he's achieved, and it's kind of difficult to argue against him. Usyk, I think, would be up there as well. Fury too, but it's one of those three. I think one of those three. But I'll say Lomachenko. That's a good one. I think that says quite a lot. I can't have it. I think it's great fun.
Roll up, it's 10 of the best.
I'm Andy Clarke, and that was my 10 of the best.